vintage stereo collectors and restorers. Here's a classic, Pioneer SA500a. Now this is one of these amps. It was just made, well, I've never seen one I didn't like. They're kind of low power, 12 watts per channel, but they don't sound low power. And I've covered this quite a while ago. Watts RMS is deceiving. These capacitor coupled quasi-complementary amps, they always sound more than they actually are. But anyway, this is one, I've rebuilt it. You can just quickly go over some of the things I rebuilt. I just unplugged it because I don't want to risk a shock. I've been testing it. Sounds great, by the way. It has had the standard capacitor change. The 3300 main cap, I actually took out, and if you can probably see this here, I don't want to. There's what was inside that black capacitor can. And it's really dry, this one. There's no way you could reform this one, not a chance. Belongs in the garbage. But in its place, there's room to get in a 4700 microfarad. So just, it will beef up the bass on these. I wouldn't go much more because of the size of the transformer. And then all of these, hopefully you can see them okay. Electrolytic capacitors, couple diodes. I've changed, just to look at it top side, started with a phono board, all electrolytic caps, and it had C458 transistors, very noisy. So now new transistors, 2N3904s work just fine in this application. It went from down to almost nothing. Noise floor dropped right down the phono section. Then I went to the tone controls. Replaced all the caps and two of the C458 transistors. I haven't had my second coffee yet. Anyway, replaced all that in there, and this was where the most notable change was. And this amp worked, just sounding a bit thin. Doing these caps and these two transistors warmed it right up. And I think what happens is, for instance, there's 2.47 microfarad caps in the bass circuit. If they go down in capacity just a little, it throws the sound out. So that made a big change. On the main board, output transistors tested okay. These screws are very brittle. They're plastics with actually nylon screws. I wouldn't play with them unless you have a set of replacements. And they're almost unobtainium these days. Hard to get, but I do have something break. So the two coupling caps, the 2200s replaced with 2200s, which is right, like for the average frequency response, I wouldn't go much bigger. Recapped it through here. These are C732 and C734 transistors. They really stand up, so if they're not blown, leave them in. They are very stable transistors, and they don't succumb to the black lead disease. Probably you can't see it on this tiny guy, but oxidation on the leads goes right into the transistor. These don't have oxidation. They're different metal. That's what usually kills these little wedgies. Now, just to show you the back, the work I did on the back. I think we're still in line with the camera. I like the nice metal chassis on this, quite a bit of point to point. So there's the 47 microfarad cap stuffed into the 3300 microfarad can. Everything reconnected to it. This one here, which is the first step down the voltage divider, which is a 500 microfarad, replaced that. The other one was oozing. Most of them were oozing. So when I installed the caps here, I went over any bad solder on here. These input stakes with the wrap-on wire, you gotta really watch these. They can get loose and you get weird intermittents that are hard to track down. So anyway, but this covers it. Just showing the nice face on this one. Isn't that nice? Champagne colored. One thing about these type of switches, these are crackling quite a bit. I actually had to take the face off, pull the switches out, break the tabs open on the back and clean them up, each one. The contact cleaner just wasn't quite doing it. Now they're nice and solid sounding. The loudness was dropping out on one channel. That's fixed. The volume control in these is a Noble volume control. And little bit crackly. I cleaned it, sprayed it, then lubed it. It's solid now. These are very, very hard to replace. If it's working well after you lube it and it stays working well, don't touch it, because you may never find another one. I'm going through this with another amp right now, actually. So there it is. Nice rebuild in this one. Some people ask me, I had this out and they'll see my video and they'll wonder, how does he decide which ones to work on? Well, I actually have a whole bunch of units waiting on a shelf to be worked on. This one actually came in after some of them, and the reason I chose to work on it is I did a test on it. I had all the parts here, so that would made it, you know, pretty straightforward to work on it. I could just get into it, and you know, how long did it take? Well, about half an hour on that board, about half an hour on this one, about an hour and a half on this one, then the under wiring about an hour, and now I'm going to let it run, make sure everything's stable, set the bias and the center voltage, and thanks for watching and listening.